Hi everyone, I'm Miranda and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm really excited because I have a special guest on my channel with me today. It's my mum Donna. Hello mum.
Hello Miranda, thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's so fun to be doing a video with you. If any of you are listeners of my podcast, Tea and Tattle, then you will at least recognise my mum's voice because she has been on the podcast with me in the past. And I'm really excited because we're going to be doing a book club together on Tea and Tattle podcast. And we're also hoping to film our book club. So this Sunday, I think, is the 20th. And that's when we'll be discussing the fortnight in September together.
I'm really excited about it.
Me too. So as well as doing a podcast episode, we're going to try filming our chat about the book together too. And we're looking forward to hearing your thoughts about it as well, because I know quite a few of you are reading along, which is lovely. But because my mum's going to be joining me for a monthly book chat on YouTube, I thought it would be nice to, introduce you a little bit. I've certainly got most of my love of reading from you. And I thought it would be a nice introduction if we answered some questions on both our reading habits, because although we have quite similar tastes in reading, our actual habits of reading are quite different from each other, aren't they? Yes, so I asked some of my Instagram community to send in questions for me and my mum about our reading habits, and they really turned up trumps. We've got a load of questions. We've got over 50 in fact, so we'll just try to get through them as quickly as possible. But yes, so this is an episode all about my reading habits and my mum's reading habits, and some tips from us on being avid readers.
Yes, because I think you could certainly say that's true of both of us. We're never without a book. So.
Exactly. We're both lifelong devoted readers. So let's dive in. I've got the questions on my phone. We haven't rehearsed this together at all.
No, so it's going to be spontaneous.
It is. So let's just dive in. How did you both become readers, and who in your lives made you both avid readers? Well, you certainly made me an avid reader. My mum read to me storybooks constantly when I was little. Yeah. You really taught me a love not just for words but for books themselves, the physical form of
and
books.
The illustrations. I tried very hard to have lovely books.
You did. You bought me the most beautiful books. You read to me constantly, and a great pleasure in my life actually has been not only my lifelong love of books, but that throughout my life I've always shared that love with you, and we've often read the same books together.
Well, I don't want to say that I had you just to have someone to share the books I loved with, but there is a bit of an element of that in there, because it was certainly a lovely byproduct of having a daughter that also loved the same books that I could read to. I mean, I never tried to push you, and in some ways we were quite different. But I had a sort of, my parents certainly didn't read very much. I didn't have that element. I did have my dearly loved Grampy, who I think probably was made to sort of sit and read to me. So very quickly taught me how to read. And so I had that element. But I also, to be fair, your dad was a big element too in making you also a book lover, because he's also a reader, different books than we would read, but he was always very encouraging of that too.
I was certainly brought up around books from both my parents, but I think it's so funny because Nanny, my beloved grandmother on your side, was so not a reader.
Oh no.
And I always think it's amazing how you grew up to be a reader, because she was actually almost disapproving of reading. She loved cleaning, being busy, and she thought it was so idle to just sit with a book.
She did. It showed how much when you loved someone, and when she realised how much it meant to me that I read, and for you too, then all of a sudden she actually could forgive it and would actually buy books.
Although sometimes still when she'd come to visit us and you'd sort of vanish for a bit, and then Nanny would say to me, "Where is your mum? I bet she's reading somewhere."
I always was.
Yes. All right, so question number 2. Do you read one book at a time or several? Can you read several fiction books at once, or do you mix it up with non-fiction?
What about you on that one?
I definitely read more than one book at a time. I'd say I have one focused read a time, but I always do have other books on the go. So, for instance, I absolutely love reading a poem a day. This book is called A Nature Poem for Every Night of the Year, and it has a companion volume, which is A Nature Poem for Every Day of the Year. So I'll read poems from these every day. I love to read poetry. I often have a non-fiction book of essays going at the same time, books that I dip in and out of, essentially, alongside a fiction or a non-fiction book that I would say is my focus read that I'm reading steadily. And I love audiobooks, so I listen to a book as an audiobook all the time as well.
Yeah, I also always read a poem before bed. I'm reading the poem, the autumn poem for every night and day, or whatever it's called, the new one. It's lovely.
Yeah,
same idea. I love doing that. I usually have a diary that I'm going through in the year that I'll read bits of, that's non-fiction, or a journal, something like that by someone that I'm interested in having a look at. But I just dip in and out and I change them every week, really. I don't sort of stick with reading the whole thing, just as interest-wise. And I've always got at least one, if not two, fiction books on the go.
Yes, you read even more books at a time than I do.
Yes, I do.
True.
Yeah.
Do you DNF or persevere? So if you're not enjoying a book, do you just give up on it and move on?
A bit of for me, I don't often choose a book that I don't like. So I don't put myself in the way of books that I don't think I'll like. So I tend to, I'm always persevering, I guess, because I know I'm going to like it, really, if I keep going. Usually your recommendation or someone I trust or something like that, I'll keep going.
Yes, that's true. You're very good at choosing what you're going to read. I tend to persevere. I think sometimes I will give up on a book if I'm really not enjoying it, but it's quite hard for me to do that. I'm a bit completist about things, I would say. So I do tend to persevere. Although in general too, I think I'm pretty good at choosing books that I think I'm likely to enjoy.
Yeah. You get better as you get older, don't you, on things like that?
I think you do. You understand your own tastes more. I mean, it's good to be taken out of your comfort zone sometimes. I think
book clubs
that's
are very
true.
good for that.
And book clubs are good for that. And if I'm reading something for a book club, even if I'm not loving it, I will try to finish it so I can talk about the book. And sometimes it's interesting why you don't like something as much as why you do. What are your favourite genres?
Well, I love mysteries, and I also love journal diary type books. What else? Sort of cozies, really. Whether it's Dee Stevenson or Miss Reed, that type of book. And of course, I love classics, Victorian classics, definitely.
Yes, I love all those too. I love cozy mysteries, golden age kind of crime. You read a lot more modern crime.
I do.
Than I do. That. You actually enjoy modern crime, whereas I don't really. It's quite hard
often
for me.
I think, that would be too frightening for Miranda.
I don't like anything too grisly, and even ones that are in the sort of style of the Golden Age period, I somehow never enjoy quite as much as the originals. But I also love nature writing a good deal. That's one of my very favourite genres as well, and literary biography, I would say too. How do you choose your next reads? Do you go with other people's recommendations, reviews, your to-be read pile? And what attracts you to a book? The cover, classics that you haven't read yet, other people's recommendations?
Yeah, Slightly Foxed is very good, isn't it? As a quarterly, you get so many recommendations through them, and I think that really does help.
Yes, Slightly Foxed magazine is a wonderful literary quarterly. Sometimes I'll read reviews in newspapers. I don't honestly judge that much by a review, though.
No.
I trust much more to my own interests and my opinion if I think a book looks interesting and I think it looks like something that I will enjoy.
We tend to recommend to one another as well.
We do. I trust your recommendations.
Yes, I trust yours.
But you're about the only person I really trust.
Well, I bet so. Yes, sometimes, you'll like it more than me, but I always find something in there. And I find I think one of the important things when you get older is to really listen to someone younger than yourself who's maybe got a different field of interest and who can bring things to you.
Yes,
and
I think a misconception people have a lot is that you're always recommending books to me, and not the other way around, and that isn't actually true. I mean, you do recommend books to me, but I recommend loads to you.
More, and I find yours exciting and new, and I think you really have very diverse reading habits, which I don't. I'm not.
Well,
so
that's
good.
Interesting. Yes, you probably do read more along a certain line.
But you pull me out of that, and that's wonderful because it's a way to stay young in your reading, which is important.
Well, and we do have a great history of sharing books, which is wonderful. But yes, I am also attracted to books by their cover sometimes too.
Yeah.
A beautiful cover will definitely make me want to pick up a book.
And sometimes when they're not good, it really you sigh over it. There are books that we buy that we feel like, oh, if only they didn't make shiny covers, or if only the cover was more attractive.
It's true. I know there are some books that you wish had better covers because they deserve them. All right, next question. Do you have a favourite reading ritual or place to read at home and in public? I certainly have a favourite armchair in the living room. Yes. I love to read it.
She does.
Yeah. You read on the couch.
Always on the couch. Yeah. Legs up, I must admit. Blanket often in place.
Yes. If we have a little ritual, we tend to read most in the evenings. Might have a glass of wine. I light a little sort of oil lamp or a candle by my armchair and snuggle up with a blanket and read for, I don't know, at least an hour, 2 hours.
Usually 2 hours, I
think so.
And then I continue. We both go upstairs at whatever time we want. I'm always read at bed in the evening, and I always wake up early, so I read in bed in the morning as well.
Yes. Which I don't do.
And of course, when I was working, I did a lot of commuting. So then I always read. That was the way it made commuting bearable. Yes. A number of times I missed our stop because so in the book. Yes, that was terrible.
Yes. Yeah. Favourite place in public? I mean, a pretty park or something like that is nice to read in.
Gardens here in Yorkshire.
Exactly.
So lovely
it's lovely to go and sit in a garden and take a book with you. Next question. Are there any places or times of day you simply cannot read?
No, I can read anywhere.
You can't read in the car.
Oh no, I feel sick. That's right. You can read in the car. I'm always so jealous of that.
Yes, because I can read on the bus, in the car.
Yeah, I can't read on the bus either. I can read on the train as long as I'm facing the way the train is going.
Yes. Other than so I can read anywhere. You just can't kind of read on the car. But apart from that,
anytime.
I don't like reading like first thing in the morning when I wake up. You read, but if I'm awake, then I get up.
Yes. I know. When I wake up so early that I don't think it'd be kind to be getting up and making a banging noise in the bathroom.
Yes. Okay, so next question. Do you ever read together silently? Yes, we do, pretty much every evening. Yeah. Although we also talk a lot. If we talked less, we would read a lot more books.
Sometimes you were like, I just have to finish this now. So I'm like, right. Yes. I'm slightly more talkative than you. I think that's fair to say.
Yes. What are your daily reading routines? What time of day do you like to read best? I think we've answered that really. It's evenings that we most like to read.
Of course, we don't watch television.
We don't. We don't really watch hardly any TV. So instead we read. Next question. Getting a bit lost. Is there a genre you prefer reading depending on the time of day? That's interesting.
It is interesting.
I think poetry I like to read at night. Yes. Just before bed. There's something really soothing about reading a beautiful poem.
It's the last thing I'll read usually before I turn out the light.
Same. So definitely poetry at night. How do you motivate yourself to read during a reading slump? How do you get out of a reading slump? Do you ever have them? No, I don't ever have them. A reading slump.
Never.
No.
Fortunately, touch wood.
Touch wood. I actually think reading helps my sense of calm. It helps my mental health. I actually start feeling really anxious if I've got really busy and I haven't been able to read.
That's very true, I can tell.
Yes, I get more irritable and stressed out.
You never.
I'm really very good.
You are.
Yes.
But I can tell you need to just have some time to yourself.
It is. It's my me time. It's like my therapy. It's my kind of meditation.
Yes.
Is my reading time, and I need to have that time. So I actually feel awful if I can't read for some reason. Do you have a set to be Redpal, or are you a mood reader, or do you just choose what to read on a whim? You're much more whim-based.
Oh, definitely. Because for me, I don't have to read anything except for, obviously, now I'm going to be doing this.
The book club.
Then I will.
Yes.
But apart from that, I'm lucky. I can just pick up and read whatever I want, whenever I want. I really love that freedom.
Yes, that is wonderful. I tend to structure my reading more, partly because there are certain things I want to be able to read and review for YouTube that I think my listeners will be interested in. When I was running the podcast weekly, I had to read a lot of books for that.
I admired you very much.
But I also am very influenced by the seasons in what I read. So I will.
We both are.
Yes, and I will plan and structure my reading around the season too, because I like to read in tune with the season. So I plan my reading to that extent, but I also will read on a whim. If a new book comes out that I think sounds great, then I'll just drop everything else and read that because I really want to.
Yes.
Next question. Are your tastes in books similar or different? Similar.
Very similar. I mean, I love more children's literature probably than if we had all the money in the world and space, I'd still be collecting picture books, which I think now you love the ones you had as a child, but you've not got the interest in collecting that.
No, that's true. And even books for older children. So you read children's literature more than I do generally, which is interesting. Yeah. Do you generally enjoy each other's recommendations? Have you ever had very differing opinions about a book? We do enjoy each other's recommendations.
Very much. I don't think we usually disagree.
No, I can't think of a time when we've really disagreed on a book.
And I mean, I wouldn't recommend to you the type of book that I know you wouldn't read, and vice versa.
Sometimes you get a little frustrated, like you really want me to read the Mike Herron books.
Mick Herron.
Herron.
Yes, I do. I do. Desperate for her to read
she keeps
those.
telling me this, and I keep kind of, yes, all right, I will. I don't.
But I know you're going to love them, I think. So, they're not scary.
No, but they're more modern day kind of spy thriller, mystery kind of book. So because you're trying to push a more modern day thing on me, I'm like resisting a bit because I'm not too sure.
I mean, it's funny, isn't it, that I do read more modern day than you do in terms of mystery.
Yes, and I don't know why, but I'm a lot more stubborn about enjoying that. Well, but I will read it at some point.
And what's interesting is because I know that you're not so keen, and it's obviously our book space is limited. I always buy them on Kindle.
Well, you're a Kindle reader.
I am.
And I'm
probably
not,
get to that question.
We will.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question. What are your top 5 favourite books?
Gosh, that's a hard one.
Yes, I know. Someone else asked for a top 3 too. I actually hate these questions because it's kind of impossible.
Yes, what's your favourite child? That's the question.
Yes. I mean, I would have to cheat and say the complete novels of Jane Austen is one of my favourite books because I would have to have all her books. She's my favourite author. Jane Eyre is an important book to me for many different reasons. A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf is very important to me. The Pursuit of Love by Nancy Mitford is one of my very favourite books. And I don't know, off the top of my head, maybe Cold Comfort Farm. I love that book too. Yes. I don't know. How about you?
Well, like you, I think I'd have to cheat on the novels of Jane Austen. And then, if only the Trollope Barchester Chronicles all got fit into one, I would have to add that. But, obviously that's a bit of a big book to have. But I love Trollope. Also, for me, I would have to choose one of the Mitfords. Maybe I'm very fond of Don't Tell Alfred, which I know isn't everybody's
set in Paris. That one.
I love France. I love that. something like Perfume from Provence. I love that book, and probably a misread because I absolutely love her books.
But please, in general, don't ask us that question. Essentially, because there are too many.
There are too many.
Yes,
and Agatha Christie. How could you not include?
Dorothy L. Sayers.
Yes,
it's too hard. It's too hard. How do you manage that awful feeling of not wanting to read what's on your shelves, or saying you have nothing to read when clearly there's many unread books on your shelf? So it's a bit like opening a wardrobe and going, I've got nothing to wear.
Yeah, that has happened to me, but the book thing hasn't happened to me.
Yes, I understand that book thing sometimes. Sometimes I'll feel really restless and I just can't quite settle to a book. That doesn't happen with you. Which is interesting. And I find when that happens, I just have to keep looking until something just clicks with whatever mood I'm in.
What I do is I'll reread them.
That's a good idea.
So, if I'm ever sort of not sure, then I'll think, I'll reread Cider with Rosie or whatever, whatever seems appropriate at that moment.
Yes.
And then I'm comfortable and then I can move into something else.
And sometimes what I'll do is I'll just go to like a short story collection or a book of essays or something. So I feel like I'm reading something, but it's something I can put down and pick up. And then when my kind of mood sorts itself out or whatever, then I can just pick up a book and really get into it then. All right, next question. Do you read physical or ebooks or audiobooks?
Right. Well, I'm definitely a Kindle reader. Started when I was commuting to work all the time, and it was just so much easier. Plus, she's really fussy about the books. I was absolutely terrified I'd break a spine or make it look
You're making
shabby.
Me sound like a tyrant.
Well, you would be really cross if you got a beautiful brand new book and I sort of dropped it somewhere.
I am a bit fussy. Yeah, that's why I don't lend books.
No.
But you're a very clean reader.
I am, but I love Kindle because I just feel like it's there. It doesn't need space. There are many books that I feel, like this sort of book I might not reread. I don't need it.
When you had surgery in your upper body, it really helped you to have just a Kindle. It's so light.
And that, having had surgery from breast cancer, that's something to think about. It's great.
Yeah.
And I know, like my uncle, your great uncle, as his eyesight went, he was so glad to be able to increase the font size. I mean, there's a real place. I think because you do so much on screen, it's different.
Yes, because I'm on a screen so much of my day because of the work that I do. I hate reading on a screen. I will only read a physical book, but I also listen to audiobooks all the time. I love audiobooks. Basically, if I'm just doing something that doesn't require my brain, like getting dressed, brushing my teeth, doing the washing up, cooking, anything, I will have an audiobook going at the same time. And I've been like that since I was about 5 years old? 4 years old?
You had a little portable cassette player that you troop around.
Yes. I don't listen to audio.
No, I quite enjoy hearing yours, but that was something that you brought yourself and you just loved
My dad now is a big audiobooks listener too, and I think I like to think I've influenced that.
You probably have. Yeah.
Is there a time of year when you read more books? No, I think we both read a steady same amount all year round.
I mean, who would want to miss the summer books or the winter books or the spring? They've got so many treasures in each season.
Do either of you write in books? No, that makes me feel like, no, please don't mark up my books.
No, never.
Yeah, no. Okay, next question. Do you have a favourite snack to eat while reading? No, well, tea. We have cups of tea. Yes. And glass of wine in the evening.
Always glass of wine.
Cup of tea the rest of the time.
Sherry at Christmas.
I don't really like eating while I'm reading because the idea of, eating a chocolate biscuit or something and then it gets on the pages.
You drop crumbs or something. No.
Yes, no. I'm fussy about my books.
We don't actually read at the table. That's actually something we don't usually do.
No, maybe sometimes over breakfast. I will, like on a weekend morning.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Next question is, how long do you read for each reading session?
Well, I could read easily three hours. We usually don't have that much time.
No, I could easily read for that long too. 2 hours in the evening, generally, at least, I would say. Do you keep a reading log? How do you keep track of your reading? Or maybe you don't. You don't keep track of your reading. No.
Never wanted to.
Just this year I started using the reading journal, which is published by Fraser and Parsley, and it's quite good for noting down what books you've read and writing a little bit about them. So this is the first time I've actually really started tracking my reading. I'm quite enjoying doing it, but sometimes I feel a bit pressured to fill it in, which is annoying. And I mean, also obviously I have Instagram, I have YouTube. I think I share what I'm reading in lots of different ways, keep track of it lots of different ways.
You do.
What are your tactics for tuning out life and screens to focus on the book without distractions? A lot of people said they got really distracted while reading.
We just don't talk. That's important when we're
we have. I think it helps establishing a ritual, establishing a place where you go and you like to read at a certain time every day, and that becomes part of your little routine. And also, don't watch so much TV.
Yes, that's a biggie.
That's a really big one. Paperback or hardcover? Hardbacks for me.
Yeah, paperbacks for me, or Kindles. Lighter is better for me, I find.
Do you use bookmarks? Yes, absolutely. You know I'm not going to turn over those pages, don't you? Yeah. And I go and get a bookmark. So I
wouldn't turn over the pages, but normally I just close it and then have to spend 5 minutes.
Or you leave like the flap of the hardback.
Yes, I'll put the flap
and I go and get a bookmark for her. Do you take notes when you read? I only take notes if I'm going to be interviewing the person, or like interviewing the author, or writing an article on the book.
Yes, I've never taken notes, not since university days.
Do you have a public library in your town? Have you visited?
We do have one, and I've signed up online, but I haven't gone there yet. And you haven't either?
No, we haven't gone in yet. I think it was closed still when we first came, and the hours are still really limited. And also, I'm terrible at returning library books on time, especially right now when we don't go out so much anyway. Yeah. But the library is really good to use for renting audiobooks from, so I do tend to use it for that. Next question. Do you create a special environment for reading? I think we've covered that already.
I think so,
yes. Do you carry a book with you wherever you go? Yes.
Always, yeah.
Yes. Is your dad a big reader too? Yes, we've answered that. Here's a hypothetical. You're invited to a dinner party and instructed to bring a book. Which book do you bring? That is tricky, because I would want to know whose dinner party I'm going to, because when I give someone a book, I really try to think about what book they will enjoy, not necessarily what I will enjoy, but what's appropriate
because I assume you're being asked to bring it so that it can be a gift. So you'd have to choose something a bit neutral, maybe.
Yes. Maybe non-fiction.
I think non-fiction.
A nice,
would be good.
Foodie memoir, maybe.
Yes,
something by M.F.K. Fisher.
Very good idea.
Yes.
Yeah, we're together on that one.
There we go. Do you ever read aloud to each other? No, you'd like me to.
Yes, I often ask Miranda to read aloud, and she'll do a tiny bit, and then she's like back in the book, and she's not.
No, or sometimes you ask me to read like a poem aloud or something, but I don't really like reading aloud. I'd rather not.
No.
If you were to choose your favourite film adaptation of a book, what would it be? Well, it would have to be a Jane Austen one. I mean, Pride and Prejudice, that's not really a film. You know, the one with Colin Firth.
Persuasion, I guess, for me.
Persuasion. Yeah. I also adore Sense and Sensibility with Emma Thompson and Kate Winslet. Love that one. Yes. Yeah. Do you have any bad reading or book habits? For instance, do you ever read the end of a book first? Oh. I do that.
It really annoys me. She does that. I can see her doing like, don't do that.
But I like to know like the direction a book is going in. I like to prepare sometimes. Or if I'm getting irritated and I'm like, is this book going to go the way I think it is? If so, I'm going to be a bit annoyed. Then sometimes I like to check and go, oh no, okay, it isn't, or oh yes, it is.
I would never do that.
No. But no, always be prepared. That's my motto. Will you become a member of your local library? We already are. What do you feel is the benefit you get from reading? Well, like I've said, I think it really benefits my mental health. It It really does. It makes me a happier, calmer person.
I think it also opens my very limited perspective in this world up. I mean, I've been lucky. I've lived in Canada and the States and France and Britain. So reading literature in all these different places is really marvellous.
Yes, it is.
Different picture.
It does. It really broadens your mind. It exposes you to different cultures and places, even if you're not able to travel to them.
Yes.
Too. So yeah, I think books are a wonderful, wonderful thing. Next question. What do you do when you start a book but get distracted? Do you restart or retrace a chapter or a few pages? Yes. If I'm reading a book and for some reason, my mind's gone elsewhere, suddenly come back and I'm like, oh, I don't know what's going on. I'll go back and pick up where.
Same.
Yeah. Unless an exception to that is if I'm listening to an audiobook and I already know the story well. And if I tune out for a bit, then I can just come back in. And that's why actually I only generally ever listen to audiobooks when I've already read the book in its physical form. And I know the story really well, because then it doesn't matter if I get distracted for a bit and I'm listening to an audiobook. Would you like to write a book yourself? Absolutely. No. I think you should.
I don't want to. So, okay. Well,
if you had to choose between fiction or non-fiction, what would it be? Fiction.
Yes, fiction.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the novel of your life? If you could only have one book which has spoken to you the most. Okay, I can't do that. I mean, I can't choose 5, let alone 1. Maybe either Pride and Prejudice or Persuasion. I can't even choose.
But they're not really novels of your life. I mean, you've come back to them and enjoyed them again. But
no, I can't say there's like one book that somehow influenced my life.
No, me neither.
No.
There's too many have influenced my life.
I think that's fair enough. Which character from a book would you most like to be and why? Lizzie Bennet, because I just think she's amazing. I love how fun and intelligent and light-hearted she is.
I think Miss Reed, for me, I think she's wonderful, and the way she has this wonderful life, really. Yeah.
What's your favourite period for books to be set in? Do you prefer them to be written from that time or set in that time?
That's an interesting question.
Yes. I love interwar literature, and I generally prefer books that were written from that actual time rather than just the contemporary but is set in that time, if that makes sense.
And I love Victorian literature, and I love it when it's actually written in Victorian times.
Yeah. Do you share bookshelf space? Yes. We'd be in trouble if we didn't, wouldn't we? Was your mum a fan of school stories as a child too?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, you didn't read the Chalet school books?
Not many. I had a couple which I enjoyed.
Okay.
But I read a lot of Angela Brazel.
Oh, yes.
I don't think you
no, I never liked
her so much.
Yeah. But Enid Blyton.
Enid Blyton, definitely, yes.
Do you have a set of criteria in your mind to judge whether a book is good or not?
Well, I think it has to be readable, and it has to make me, want to keep going. But
the plot should make you want to keep turning the pages, and language is important.
And it should have a plot. I do get a little bit annoyed with some modern stuff where there's
just character driven. How do you balance reading, writing, and social media time?
Well, thank goodness I don't have to. But over to you on that one.
Well, it's just an endless struggle and juggle, really. But having my evenings as kind of sacred reading time is very important. It's how I read a lot. Can you share a reading moment you remember? Like this particular book you'll always remember because of... That's a bit tricky for me. Probably books associated with travel would fit that description. So I remember I read a lovely book called The Lost Vintage by Anne Marr that was set in this particular area of Burgundy, and we happened to travel to that part of Burgundy for a press trip, and it was just really serendipity. I read this book, I interviewed her for Tea and Tattle podcast, and we went to the area, and that was just really special because I got to see it all. I was reading it.
I think for me, it's often a place where I've been collecting books. So when I was on Long Island, for instance, I discovered Patricia Wentworth, and she started to come out in paperbacks, and sort of making the effort of trying to get them and reading them, and the excitement of really finding an author that you don't know, and then, oh my gosh, she's written loads. That's wonderful.
That's true. That is always exciting. I know you have many books and beautiful shelves. Do you have a process for moving books on to make space? Do you have guidelines for yourself? Well, essentially any books that we somehow get doubles of, because sometimes I'm like sent doubles by mistake from publishers, or if it's a book I've read but not really loved, and then I can give it to a friend or something.
Yes, or charity shop.
Yeah.
Well, we used to do that. It's not so easy now.
Yes. Yeah. How has your living location affected your reading habits? Have you noticed a change in book genre, subjects, authors, etc., when you reflect on the different places you may have lived? That's a great question. Yes, I think moving to so many different places, living in cities as well as now the move to the country. I definitely want to read more books about moving to the country now, for instance. That's a theme that I'll be focusing on. So where we live definitely affects the type of books we read.
Yeah, I want to read more books about Yorkshire now.
Yes, me too. Do you read in any other language apart from English? No, because sadly my French is terrible and I don't speak any other language.
I can read in French, yes, but I don't choose to. I really love to read in my own language, so that's what I do. You get the most when you're reading in your own language, I think. So.
Do you make notes on great quotes? If so, how do you do this by minimizing interruption or the flow of reading? That's tricky, and I've found one of the best things to do is, because I always have my phone on me, is if you're reading a book and you come across a good quote, then just take a picture of it.
Yeah, sometimes I ask, could you take a picture of this bit for me?
Yes, because that way you don't have to stop and find a piece of paper and pen and write it all down. It's quite quick, and then you can always write it down later. So that's my tip for that. Okay, what do you do when anxiety takes over? Reading might be a good distraction, but you cannot focus. I think your tip about going back to a book you've loved is a good idea.
Yes.
Like a comfort read.
Yes.
Just choose one of your comfort reads and read that.
I found with literature, I think when I've been in hospital having surgery and things, that sometimes you realise that, a magazine really doesn't fit in with what's happening to you, but often a book can pull you in. So I think sometimes a comfort read, something you're rereading, can be invaluable in that sort of situation. It can calm you.
Okay, almost at the end now. You seem to be a very fast reader. I think we both are.
Yeah.
I used to be a fast reader, but nowadays I find it very hard to stay focused for a longer period of time. Do either of you have any advice for staying focused and reading more quickly? Yes, turn off the notifications on your phone, at least all of the notifications from social media. If you can put your phone on airplane mode for a while, then do that. If you can't, if you feel you can't because you want to be reachable by text, then at least turn off other notifications that you can turn off, and just give yourself that time with a book. I
think when you were little, I always made sure that you went to bed really early. I knew that you would get up really early, so there was always payback, but I wanted that time in the evenings to read when you've got young children around and distractions, being very organised in your day, so you make sure you've got things ready for the morning before you sit down to read.
Yes, that is a good idea. And just reading for as long as you can will help with your speed.
It will.
Yeah. Do either of you read letters or diaries? And if so, which one's your favourites? Yes, we both read letters and diaries a lot. I love Virginia Woolf's essays. I love Jane Austen's letters. I love Virginia Woolf's diary entries.
Dorothy Wordsworth's journals. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Do you read seasonally? Absolutely.
All the time.
Yes. And that's why the Teen Tattle podcast will also be seasonal. So the books that we choose will reflect the month that we're in. So anyway, those are all our answers. Thank you again for the fantastic questions. And it's lovely to have my mum on. So thank you for welcoming her. Looking forward to returning with the book club. But yes, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, which you can do by clicking my face. It pops up here. And I'll be back again very soon with another video.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.